For the first time in its 200-year history, Mexico has a female president-elect. Claudia Sheinbaum is a climate scientist and the former mayor of Mexico City. She stormed to victory in the election on Sunday, and she's to take the reins now from Manuel López Obrador, her long-standing political ally. With our first report this hour, here's Oliver Farry.
Claudia Sheinbaum took to the stage late on Sunday night as the president-elect of Mexico, the first female president in the country's history.
I'd like to thank the millions of Mexican women and men who decided to cast their vote for us on this historic day, to help move forward the fourth transformation of public life of our country.
Preliminary results gave Sheinbaum a lead of over 30 percentage points ahead of her main challenger, Xochitl Gálvez, forecasting a landslide victory. Sunday's election was mostly peaceful, though 2 people were shot dead at polling stations in the state of Puebla. Sheinbaum supporters gathered at the Zócalo, Mexico City's main square, where they hailed a historic day.
We feel very, very proud, and we hope that the elections will be respected. Very early on, I went to my polling station at 8 in the morning, and there were already quite a lot of people, and that was seen throughout the Mexican Republic.
Xochitl Gálvez also spoke on Sunday, declaring Election Day a victory for her coalition, but she was referring mainly to legislative and municipal elections. But even those victories may be mitigated. Sheinbaum said her Morena party expects to secure a 2/3 majority in the National Parliament, giving her extra scope to push legislation through.
And to help us digest that news from Mexico, I'm very pleased now to welcome to the programme Vanessa Rubio-Márquez. She herself has had a long career in Mexican politics, working for 25 years in various governments, including as the Deputy Minister for Finance and the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister as well. She's now an Associate Fellow at the Americas Programme at Chatham House. Welcome to you. Thanks very much for joining us. Look, first of all, as a woman yourself in Mexican politics, your reaction, first of all, to Sheinbaum making history and securing the top job in your country.
Thanks for having me, Nadia. And yes, of course, this is an historic event that the first woman ever to be elected president of Mexico. We were granted the ability to have our votes considered 71 years ago. My mom was 7 years old by then. So it's a fight that has been fought by our grandmothers, our mothers, both the ones that have been more public, the ones that have been more private, but it's been a struggle by women in the country. So this is an historic day and an historic achievement. But besides that, there's, of course, a series of challenges in Mexico that the new president, Claudia Sheinbaum, will have to face.
Indeed. Well, let's talk about some of those challenges then. The poverty rate in Mexico, I see, is more than 30%. We, of course, have significant migration to the United States. That's a big issue with the White House. And there's soaring violence. More than 30 candidates in this election were killed in the campaign. So is this president-elect up to the job of tackling those vast, complex issues?
I think she's a capable woman. She's a scientist. She is a physicist. She holds a Ph.D. She has experience in government. But challenges are big, and governance of the 12th largest economy in the world is something that is very complex. So you were asking about poverty and about inequality. For instance, you're going to be having to decide whether you continue with social programs and cash transfers only, or you enable with policies on education and you enable with policies on health and on training and on skilling the Mexican population that basically want to have a saying in their own economic development and access to social rights. So those are the kind of debates that Claudia Sheinbaum will face. But also, for instance, the rule of law and giving certainty to private sector participation, because, of course, Mexico depends, 80% of its GDP depends on and trade, and investment and trade are key elements. But for that, you need to give certainty to the private sector, no? Public finances is another key element. As this year, they're running the largest fiscal deficit in the last 30 years. Also, energy and the oil national company, Pemex, which is currently in an unsustainable path. So a lot of very complex policy challenges lay ahead. But we are hopeful that Claudia Sheinbaum, her government, and her relationship with the opposition, with the private sector, and with other elements of interest in Mexico will move forward in the right direction.
She is, though, a continuity candidate, isn't she? She promised yesterday that she would pursue the work of the former president, her ally, Manuel López Obrador. How different, then, really, do you think this Mexican government will be to the previous one?
Well, I think she has actually laid out her program, and her program has a lot of elements that are very similar to the current administration. For instance, big questions are, how will she come about with the democratic fundamentals of the country, the relationship with the legislative, having a truly independent electoral institute that grants free elections? How about the independence of the judiciary? How about the role of the military, Nadia? Because the role of the military has been increasing in Mexico, and the military not only oversees security, but they run customs. They have been building an airport. They have been building the oil refinery. Now they have even a private airline. So the role of the military is going to be essential also in this discussion of the democratic fundamentals of the country. And of course, how she comes about with fighting organized crime and securing that violence levels are reduced and peace prevails in Mexico.
Vanessa Rubio-Márquez, lots more I'd like to ask you, but unfortunately we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your time on France 24.
Thank you so much.